Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing great tonight. I want to talk to you real quick about failure and how we turn failure into success. Now I'm sitting out here, I'm at my dad's farm. Love it out here. I'm home visiting family and everything for Labor Day weekend. And I was just thinking about, Labor Day. Labor Day is one of those things that comes out of the labor unions working, all these things back in the history of North America. And I started thinking about, at the time there was a lot of haves and there was a lot of have-nots. Similar to what people complain about today. And one of the things that struck me is that there were things that made those haves, those people that were successful, those people that climbed the ladder all the way up to the top. What was it that separated them from everybody else? Now, a lot of people think, well, they were born into money, things like that. The truth is, that's true of like 10%. I think it's like 10% of billionaires were born into money. Most made it their own self. I started thinking about the opportunities that everybody has. And I fully admit that there are some people end up as outliers because they fall into a situation that other people didn't have those same, advantages of. Bill Gates with his opportunity for the school that he went to high school and then I think college and having access to a computer, he was able to write so many hours of code before most people had ever touched a computer. That definitely gave him a leg up on the competition. But I started thinking about me, not that I'm hugely successful, but I do believe, I have obtained a moderate level of success in my current profession. And one of the best things that I think ever happened to me at the time seemed like the biggest tragedy that I could imagine. So I was 23. I was serving in the South Carolina Army National Guard. I might have been 22. And I was an assistant golf course superintendent at Wild Wing Golf Plantation down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, golf mecca of the world. Never been a great golfer. I love golf. I used to play about 72 holes a week. But when I was 16 years old, I figured out it was much easier and it was better to drive 30, 45 minutes to the beach and work on golf courses, do landscaping, mow grass, stuff like that. It was a lot easier and it paid better than cropping tobacco, which was my alternative. That's what everybody else did, right across the road, right there, not 300 meters from me is a tobacco field. And that's really hard work, y'all. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but cropping tobacco, working on farms and stuff, that's hard. And I grew up doing stuff like that, but I figured out it was much easier work and it was a lot better to go to the beach. I could mow grass, I could make a couple more dollars an hour, and then in the evenings I could go to the beach. I could spend the day at the beach, which is awesome. But a 16, 17, 18-year-old boy, young man out there, and there were girls in bikinis everywhere. Let's face it, that was a no-brainer. So, started doing that, ended up going to college, got an associate's degree in agricultural technologies, focused on turf grass management. And next thing I knew, I was assistant golf course superintendent. I was doing great. And it came up that there was an opportunity for me to rise up because my boss left. So they went through and they did this series of tests and interviews for who was going to be the next golf course superintendent. If I'd gotten this job, it would have made me, I think, at the time, the youngest golf course superintendent in Myrtle Beach. And this is for a multi-million-dollar golf course. And it came through, and everybody knew I was going to get this job. I could tell you I could outwork anybody on my crew. I had 2 crews, 48 people that worked for me, and I could outwork any one of them. I was a great worker. I'd get them started in the morning, I'd get them out there, and then, man, I was working all throughout the day. And I definitely did the work of probably 3 people myself. And I knew my golf courses, I knew both of them, and I thought I was doing everything right. Went in, aced the interview, all this kind of stuff. I even had people pat me on the back, say, hey, congratulations on that superintendent's position. The next day I came in, see my boss, and he told me, he said, William, he said, I'm excited to go with this other fellow for the job. He said, and this is why. He said, you like to work too much. This is my boss, and he's telling me I like to work too much. And that didn't make any damn sense to me whatsoever at the time. Because the guy that got the job, he's a good friend of mine. I didn't think he worked hard enough. And I ended up quitting my job, stepped down from my position I was in, ended up going back to college a little bit, then ended up going to Iraq and switched over to regular Army, and the rest is history. And I have, since that time, I think I've become an extremely successful manager and an extremely successful leader. And here's why. Kevin, my boss back then, was absolutely 100% correct. I thought to be a good leader, I had to work harder than everybody else. And there's something to be said about that. When something has to be done, it's great to be able to work harder than everybody else. I was a horrible manager back then. I thought I was great at it. Because I'd set up this board and I'd send everybody out. And what would happen, I realized, and I was sitting in Iraq when I realized this, I would set up the board, I send 48 people out to work in the morning, then I would go out and I would start working myself. So when everybody got done, people would get done with their first rolls, they would roll out at 6:30 in the morning. So people from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock would start showing back up because they'd finished their morning assignments, waiting on their next assignments. Well, it was supposed to get about a 15-minute break. You had a couple people who come and take their 15-minute break. A lot of people take 20, 30 minutes because I was out there working. While I was doing the job of 2 to 3, sometimes 4 people, I had anywhere from 5 to 15, 20 people sitting in the shop waiting on me. And I was not a good manager because I like to work all the time. And over that time, I learned that to be an effective manager, I needed to be able to lead, and I needed to be able to show people what to do and how to do it if necessary. But I needed to be able to kind of manage their individual talents. I needed to be able to focus their desires to help us reach a common mutual goal. One of my favorite quotes on leadership is by General Eisenhower, later President Eisenhower, and he said, leadership is getting people to do what it is you want them to do and having them want to do it. And over time, what Kevin told me that, I like to work too much helped mold me into a very successful manager and leader. Now, I still love to get out there, and one of the things I think makes me successful is I don't mind getting dirty. I'm in the white-collar side of the Army now, but I came up through the ranks. And that gives me a benefit because, there is legitimacy whenever I tell people, hey, this is what I need you to do, and this is why I need you to do it. Because they know I've been there and I've done that, and I'm not just blowing smoke up their ass. So I'm just curious. Well, I'm going back to my original thought. I imagine that everybody, regardless of where they start out at, some people get setbacks. Now, I got a setback that derailed my golf course superintendent dreams at the time, but it's helped me become successful in life. And I'm willing to bet that the Bill Gateses, the Steve Jobs, the John D. Rockefellers, Cornelius Vanderbilts, all these people that have become very successful, the Frank Thomases, the Willie Mays, Peyton Manning, all these people, I'm willing to bet they've had some setbacks, and it caused them to reevaluate themselves. And I think that's one of the things that a leader does, is he evaluates himself, and a successful person evaluates themselves, and they're always striving to get better. I try to surround my people that are doing that exact same thing. So I'm curious, and let me know down in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. But let me know down in the comments something that has happened to you that should have been a major setback, or maybe even was a major setback, but that when you look back now, you realize that that's one of the best things that could happen to you, and you've learned so much from it. Just like me, getting passed over for a big promotion and being told that I like to work too much. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you hit like and subscribe.